What's going to come? What's the future of democratizing private equity going to bring?
Thanks so much, Marco. It's really a pleasure to be here. And my first NOAH goes back to the time when I was with KKR. I started my career back in the 90s, founded my first company in the FinTech sector, was a huge success. And then I joined KKR in 2004. And when I joined KKR, we were on a global basis 26 people. Fast forward, if you think about it, how the industry has evolved, today more than 2,000 people, executives work for KKR. And why am I telling this? Private equity became an incredible global source. It stands today for some 25% of the global M&A volume. So why is it? And where is it coming from? Two reasons I want to mention. The first thing most people don't know, everybody knows what private equity is, but most people don't know why the industry has so succeeded. And one reason is that the opportunity set in private markets is 10 times larger than in public markets. So 90% rough numbers in the US here, over a turnover revenues over 150 million are in private hands. That's one reason. Opportunity set is gigantic. The second stat I want to give you is what most people don't know. The number of IPOs steadily decline since 2000. They go down and not up. So the opportunity set in public markets is actually shrinking. And the third reason is, and that is in particular valid for the growth space, that the holding periods of private companies are becoming longer and longer. And the reason is that the Sequoias and the large players in venture and growth, they have learned that they have left in the past a lot of value for the public markets. If you think about the IPO from Google, came far too early. Yeah? It was founded in 98, it went public in 2004, and then everybody who played public markets had a tremendous value creation and could benefit from it. The industry has learned, now there are pools of capital in private markets that are capturing the value in private hands, and not much left, in many cases, is left over for the public markets. Think about the Palantirs, think about the Ubers, and all these companies. So that is one reason why private equity became, or private markets in general, such an incredible global phenomenon. The second reason is very factual, the outperformance. If you play, and I come back to this, with the best private equity funds, historically, you have benefited from an outperformance of some 8, 9, 10% versus public markets. The issue is, or the difficulty is, that there is no index. You can't buy an ETF in private markets. What you have to do is you have to select out of the 4,000 private equity funds the top quarter, the best 25%. And that is really an art. So professional investors have understood the game. Private equity is unbeatable from a risk-return perspective. If you add private equity, you gain not only return, as I've showed you in the last chart, you're also reducing, due to the diversification, Markowitz, your risk. And professional investors have understood this, and they are allocating on average, if you take pension funds and institutional investors, 26% of their assets into private markets. Very smart endowment funds, and in the literature you always find names like Yale or Harvard. They are even going higher, up to 50%. Half of their assets are in private markets. And now look at the number for private individuals. It's 2%. And that was something that struck me. And this is why, when you think about the 2% would go up to some 25%, and people, private individuals, would allocate their money as professional investors into private markets. We are talking just for Europe about an inflow in private equity of 1,500 billion US dollar. The market size from private individuals is as large as the entire institutional market. So a huge untapped pool of capital that has or should be in private equity, but it's not in private equity. And this brought me up to an idea. And there's a famous quote from Steven Schwartzman, the founder and co-CEO of Blackstone. He was asked in an interview a couple of years ago, why is Blackstone such an incredible investment company? And his answer was, we do see things that others don't see. And that is a common theme for every founder, every successful company. at NOAH as well. All these founders saw something that others haven't seen. And I had a moment back in 2015 when I saw something that we call today, or the industry calls democratization of private equity, making this accessible to ordinary private people. All these stories about founding a company in retrospective, they sound all great. But the truth in my case was when I founded the company, and this is why I'm so grateful for people here that supported me, I realized that the realization of this company would be everything but easy. And most of my close friends told me, you will never get this done. And the first couple of years were incredibly challenging because no one was talking about what became this phenomenon, private equity goes retail. Today, if you talk to the KKRs, to the Blackstones, CVCs, they tell this democratization theme one of the largest disruptions in financial history. They are not talking about blockchain. They are talking about a very, very simple phenomenon, private equity goes retail. So what we do is very, very simple. I realized that as an individual, I'm alone. I don't have the financial means to get access to KKR, Blackstone, or the CVCs. You typically needed 10 million in assets to be accepted as an investor. And when I left KKR and had the opportunity, when I was with KKR, to invest alongside the large pension funds and the large investors with relatively small amounts of money, for me, this opportunity was gone. And I realized as an individual, I'm not strong enough. So the idea behind Moonfare is very simple. We build a community, we pool us here in this room together, everybody is contributing what she or he can contribute, and then we as a group, as a community, are stronger and we can invest into KKR. Fast forward, and you see the numbers. Moonfare today is the largest direct-to-consumer, digital direct-to-consumer platform for private equity in the world. We are active in 22 markets. We have 8 offices globally, some 3 billion in assets under management, and are a market leader. So why is it that private individuals have no access? One reason, as I mentioned already, is high investment minimums. It's a lack of access to the top-tier managers. You need someone who is selecting on your behalf the best managers out there, out of those 4,000. And you need, from a private individual perspective, very important, a path to liquidity. Because you never know what happens. You are facing a divorce, you're losing your job. Very important is the liquidity aspects. And all of these issues or entry barriers, Moonfare has solved. When we started the company, regulation didn't allow us to really fulfill our mission. And our mission is to democratize private equity broadly. In the beginning, it was restricted to so-called qualified investors, semi-professionals, professional investors. And a new revolution came into play, which now enables us to really live our dream, to give access to everybody. It's called LTIF 2. It's very, very new. It was launched or became effective earlier this year. And de facto, it allows now people to play private equity with as little as 10,000 euros. So what's happening here is exactly what happened in public markets. Public markets were closed in the beginning of the 20th century to very, very large investors because stock prices were so high. Now, everybody plays public markets through ETFs or mutual funds. The same is happening here in private markets with the LTIF. And what is it exactly? The strategy that we have pulled together is a combination of fund investments, like a pool of funds to ensure diversification, but also we take 50% of the fund volume and invest it into co-investments. So we are putting your money to work very, very, very early. I said it earlier, you have to play with the best managers. In the meantime, Moonfare had more than 100 private equity players on the platform. Out of the 4,000 that are out there, we are looking at 500 in a given year, and only 20 make it to the platform. And we are applying the same rigorous approach here for the LTIF. So we curate a fund pool of the best players out there, the KKRs, the EQTs, and so on, and we invest alongside them into certain assets. This brings you a very diversified, high-quality asset. And what we also have established is a secondary market So you have a path to liquidity. If you need your money back before maturity, before the funds are fully invested or are returning the capital, you can go to our secondary market, which is which is huge. In the meantime, we have thousands of players, and you can liquidate your position. So this is the story about LTIFs. Any questions? We have a box outside. My team is also here with me, so please feel free to step by if you want to learn more.